In today's society, everyone is yelling at each other and nobody can agree upon anything. Well, there are ways that you can have disagreements even with your greatest opponent and not come out worse off. Welcome to Talk to Communicate, and today's 5-minute book review is Why Are We Yelling by Buster Benson. I'm Steve Mehta, a communications specialist, an attorney, and a professional mediator for over 29 years. As a professional mediator, I'm used to having people disagree with me every single day. The hard part is working through it. Most people, however, believe that arguments and disagreements are a bad thing, and that's because we were never taught how to properly argue. A disagreement is simply where two people have a different point of view. The reality is that disagreements are only bad when they are unproductive. Arguments and disagreements provide a warning to others that something is important to us. The more we learn about people's perspectives, the less likely we are to disagree. Most disagreements come from two sources. Number one, anxiety. And number two, cognitive biases. By the way, take a guess at how many cognitive biases have been identified so far. You'll be shocked. I'll let you know later in the show. Each person's anxieties are unique to them. The problem with anxieties, however, is increased anxieties lead to further disagreements, and further disagreements lead to increased anxieties. It's a vicious cycle. Disagreements based on anxiety will fall into three categories: anxiety of the head, or in other words, facts or science; anxiety of the heart, aka the meaning of the facts; and finally, anxiety of the hand, or anxiety over the utility of something. In other words, anxiety can be over what is happening, what should be happening, or what needs to be happening. Cognitive dissonance and cognitive biases are the other cause of disagreements and arguments. Cognitive dissonance is the internal conflict when information is presented to you is different than what you believe, such as when an anti-vaxxer is given information about the effectiveness of a vaccine in their family. Cognitive biases are automatic shortcuts created by the brain in order to efficiently process information and to allow you to make sense of the disconnect between your beliefs and your facts. According to the book, cognitive biases are formed because of three primary reasons. 1, there's too much information being presented to process. 2, you can't understand the information that's being presented. Or 3, there's not enough resources to objectively evaluate the information being presented. Examples of these shortcuts are when there's too much information, a person may automatically ignore the past information and only look at the most current information. Take, for example, a gambler who won the last 5 hands today, but forgets that he lost all of his hands yesterday. When faced with new information, people might tend to believe what is familiar to them rather than what is new to them. You always go to the same restaurant because it's familiar, rather than going to a new restaurant. In fact, McDonald's made billions off of that. Finally, when faced with contrary information, people may stick to their previously held beliefs rather than taking the time and the effort to learn the new belief. The stronger the existing belief, the more that contrary information will make the person lean into their own beliefs. You see this in politics and in religion, and an unwavering belief in the local sports team. Okay, so you wanted to know how many cognitive biases there are? According to Wikipedia, there are at least 185 cognitive biases. So let's talk about solutions to the problems of cognitive bias and anxiety. First, acknowledge your anxieties and their source. Also, at the same time, inquire of the other person's anxieties and what is the source of their discomfort. Second, identify your own personal biases. Once you understand this, you will be better prepared to determine whether those biases are actually affecting your ability to interact with different viewpoints than yours. Have you ever heard a person say, "I'm a meat and potatoes person"? That viewpoint may be preventing them from experiencing new foods or cultures. People's biases falsely lead them to believe that they are the only ones that are normal and other people are abnormal. Third, don't assume people's motivations. Ask questions. Don't focus on closed-end questions such as, "Don't you think abortion is morally wrong?" Instead, try to ask open-ended questions such as, "What experiences led you to your belief about abortion?" Allow the other person to explain their position rather than limiting their position. Finally, try to create a neutral environment where you may have your discussion. People will be much more open to a dialogue if the location is neutral. If you want to learn more about the book, Why Are We Yelling?, look below for the link to the book. If you don't have the time and you want to get a further summary of the book in 10 to 15 minutes, you can check out the links below to read the summary of the book at Blinkist.com and getabstract.com. Please like this video and subscribe if you're interested in seeing more about communication strategies or other 5-minute book reviews. See you next time.